right, guys, we are back, and we've got our alcohol inks ready. We've got our sheet of WATERSLIDE paper. This is LittleLee and Rose WATERSLIDE paper. Of course, I highly recommend it because, you know, well, we designed it. We've got, we're going to be using pearlescent alcohol inks. I've got Intrigue. I've got Villainous. Always give them a little extra shake to make sure the pearlescence is shooken up really well in there. We've got Villainous, and we've got Tranquil. Tranquil is we've got blue, purple, and pink. We're gonna have a lot of fun with this. The paper is slightly rounded out, so I'm gonna tuck it in so it lays a little bit more flat so all the ink doesn't pool to the middle. All right, so you can use, I'm gonna be using basically a little handheld airbrush machine, but there's nothing in the tank. I'm just gonna be using this for the air to push the ink. If you do not have one of these, you can use a straw and just blow using a straw. So we are going to basically just going to start here by dropping the inks around on the paper. And we'll add more as we go. We did these in my Facebook group. We did little mini ones. I showed my Facebook group how to make small little mini ones and use just a portion of the paper. But for this one, we're gonna do a whole sheet, and then we're gonna cut out our favorite parts. And this is just inkjet WATERSLIDE paper. That's actually very important. The laser printer WATERSLIDE paper will not work the same as this one does. Okay, and then we're gonna take the air and we're gonna start moving this around, and we're just gonna add ink as we go. The air moves it around and it dries it at the same time, and so it's gonna give you all the different textures. So you see some of them have dried already in place, and what you're gonna do when that happens, don't stress out. So we're gonna get it nice and dry, and then you're gonna take your blending solution, and you can actually drop the blending solution down over the top of that, and it will get them back to being soluble. And that's how you get slightly lighter colors as well. And you can just keep moving it around, having fun with it, pushing it around. Different directions. You can see we're getting this beautiful starting to get right in here. See how gorgeous that's starting to become? Okay, we're gonna do some more blending solution. I'm gonna do some more direct focus. Let it sit for just a second. And then start moving it around and drying it off using your air. Now, a lot of people in my Facebook group are saying if I use a straw, it tends to get kind of, they're like, it's gross, my spit comes out the end. What you do is just tap the straw out as you go. Go nice and slow and tap the straw. So with my there's no paint or ink inside my little handgun. I'm just using air. So if you push, so when you use these, if you push down, it does just air. If you pull back, it releases. So you see there is ink in there, but I'm just pushing down to release the air. And then what's in there is just left over from me cleaning my machine. So this is gorgeous. I'm gonna drop a little bit of blue in the middle of there. I think it's a little too pink. And so we're gonna look how beautiful see how it expands. It's really, really cool. Perfect. Okay, let's do a little bit of the blending solution right in here. You can also use compressed air if you have like a Fry's or a computer store near you. They sell compressed air, and you can use that to do this exact same thing I'm doing if you don't have a good set of lungs and you don't have one of these. They run generally anywhere between $5 and $10 for a compressed air can. It basically is very similar to what I'm using here. I know my local Fry's had them for about $5, and it saves your lungs a little bit. We'll let that sit in there. All right, so now we're just gonna push. And again, remember that this is an inkjet piece of paper. That is important because laser printer paper is designed for waterproof, and the alcohol ink will not penetrate it as well, and you won't get the same effect. Or it won't, it slides off. It won't stay on the paper as well. So basically what I'm doing now is I really like the way it looks, and I'm just kind of drying it in place. Getting some really good designs on there. Add a little more ink here. And add some blending solution. It looks so cool. I almost want to dry it just as it is. So maybe that's what we'll do. I'm just going to push the air on it. We're really just shooting to dry this out because it looks gorgeous the way it's just naturally kind of working itself into each other. Inks are so fun to play with because of this. You also want to always remember when you're doing this, you want to choose colors that are on the same side of the color wheel. Otherwise, you'll end up with like a brown, icky color. Now, this is a really cool way to make camo. So if you wanted to do the same exact idea, but use browns, greens, and do like camouflage, this is a really good way to do camouflage. But for today's purposes, we are doing this to get our beautiful nebulas. All right, so I'm gonna finish up and get all the way around the outer edges, and we'll be right back. All right, we're back. We've got a nice soft towel down as our base. I was gonna originally just show you guys how to cut out and do the nebula just over that, but I just realized I'm actually live with my Facebook group while I film this tutorial, and I realized I should show you guys how to do a full wrap, because this will wrap very, very well around this cup, and then the nebulas will just fill in all the spots that are white, and you'll be able to see them, and then over the dark they will just kind of disappear. So that just kind of occurred to me, so we're going to do that, and it'll be fun, something fun for my YouTube channel to watch. It's something new that I haven't shown you guys either. So I've got a big tub down here to my right, and I'm going to take this beautiful piece of water slide paper that we've made. This has 3 coats of Rust-Oleum satin finish. You can see it's got this beautiful texture in it, and it's so intricate and very very detailed. It's very, very beautiful. But it is got the 3 coats. But what you want to do first, because I did the 3 coats, is you want to do a very thin cut around the outside, because when you spray paint the outside of, when you spray paint a water slide, the spray paint will actually seal down the edges of the water slide paper. So first we have to cut the edges of this paper to make sure that the water slide will release off the backing. So that little simple thing will help the water slide paper release off. So we're gonna do this, we're actually gonna be facing this forward, and we're gonna be cutting this, we're gonna be doing a face down application. So what you wanna do is you're gonna pre-prep and pre-cut it so that you're not cutting off a ton. And you can see here, you're a little bit on, a little bit off. And the best thing we can do is try to figure out, so this is gonna be where we're gonna try to have our seam where we start and stop. It's almost like a spot right there where there's a line where we can go, where there's not right in the middle of a white nebula. So that's what we're gonna shoot for the edge of this one to start. So basically, like, the wrap will start there, and then as we go, we're gonna wrap this up and come around, okay? So that is what our end goal is for this piece, all right? So I'm gonna get this soaking in the water. It's gonna take about 60 to 90 seconds. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slowly start taking my forefinger and thumb and just releasing it after about 90 seconds and seeing if I get any kind of movement off this, and just pre-releasing it just by pushing and pulling just ever so slightly to help release the paper from the backing. If it does not move at all, you don't want to use too much pressure because you'll tear it. But if it doesn't give any give, put it back in the water. It's not ready. You want to make sure this slides right off the backing very, very easily. You should be able to push it just a little bit and it just moves right along for you, all right? So we're gonna soak this and we'll be right back. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull the water slide up out of the water. Let's give it a test. It looks pretty good. You can see it's really well released. I can definitely feel it's slippery and slidey you can see it's even trying to slide off the paper just as it is. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the edge of this right where we were talking. In that line, we're gonna make sure there's a little bit of moisture on the cup. So I'm gonna line up the cup. I'm gonna line up the edge of that water slide. Right there. We're gonna wrap it. This is why I love LittleLee and Rose water slide paper, because it's super durable, has some give and flex to it. Get it wet from the other side. We're going to make sure there's no cracks or wrinkles. I can see that it's not lining up properly on the bottom, so I'm going to reline the bottom. Bring up the edge again. This is why I love our water slide paper. And look how incredible those nebulas look. Okay, so now we can dip a silicone tool and kind of brush any air bubbles out as we go. Nice and smooth. I'm not worried about overlapping from the top or the bottom just yet. We can clean that up once we get the whole vinyl wrapped on. For now, we just want to worry about air bubbles and smoothness. See, you can just, as long as you get the 3 coats, the really good 3 coats of the Rust-Oleum clear, you have a lot of play and give in the cup, in the paper. Keep moisture on it. And we are back around the original spot. Okay, we got it nice and smooth. Beautiful. Takes a little work. Sometimes you have to relift and reposition. Again, just pushing through, getting all the air bubbles out. Okay, then we're going to take a pair of scissors and we're going to cut. I'm keeping it on the sheet because it's nice and slippery and gooey. And we're going to cut right along the seam. Hold that just in case we need it. We're going to keep our silicone tool to keep pushing down that edge, push our seam together, nice and perfect. And just like that, ta-da! So all this around the top we will eventually clean off once we get it under epoxy. But first what we want to do is make sure that that is nice and smooth. There's no air bubbles under it, and my fingers are nice and wet, so it just rolls along. Keep that seam nice and smooth. Perfect. All right, there we go. So we're gonna just let this dry in front of a fan for probably about 24 hours. I wanna make sure that this is super duper dry before we add any epoxy or we go any farther. But you can see some really, really cool detail. Anywhere where it's white, it just really pops off the tumbler, and you get these really cool nebula explosions for the Galaxy tumbler. Blah, blah, blah. All right, guys, here we go. So we've got the cup ready. It's been drying for a couple days now. I actually didn't get back to it for a couple days, so it's perfect. It does not need to be sealed at this point because the inks have fully saturated that paper. It's really cool because you can see all the starbursts, like the bursts around where the white are. It's really vibrant. The opalescents are beautiful. We've got it mounted onto a LittleLee Rose cup turner. We sell these on our website if you are new to this craft and you are looking for supplies. We have a whole website full of stuff. And And we also sell the water slide paper that we use to do the decal that we wrapped. Now we're going to put epoxy on this tumbler to seal this all in and make it permanent. I'm using LittleLee and Rose Pouring Art Epoxy. We have part A and part B. This is what it would look like on our website if you're searching for it. Our epoxy has low bubble. It has UV resistance. It's got UV resistance. It's low bubble. It has low VOC. It has sunscreen in it so that the cup doesn't turn blue, so it doesn't turn yellow. It's just an all-around really wonderful to work with epoxy. It works with humid climates, and it's a great epoxy for people who struggle in their climate. So we measure by weight. I have a little scale here, and I measured equal parts. We have about 20 grams total. I did about 10 grams and 10 grams. So we have this all measured out by weight. So we're going to be stirring this up thoroughly. I'm going to scrape my spoon top and bottom, make sure that it is totally stirred up. Usually I use my epoxy mixer, but I don't want to make you guys jealous. We do have a mixer on our website available, but at the time of filming this, we are currently sold out, and all of our Facebook members are waiting patiently for them to come back in stock for more to be manufactured from our company so we can get them out to everybody. So I don't want to make you guys jealous and use it, so I'm just hand stirring. Our machine actually turns it and it mixes the epoxy for you, and it has virtually no bubbles when you mix it with the epoxy mixer. I'm sorry. So this is equal parts A and B. When you are working with resins, you want to make sure you're using an FDA compliant resin. There are other epoxies out there that are FDA compliant, but of course we branded our own. We created our own. I worked with a chemist to formulate this and make it to solve all the problems that I see people talking about with their epoxy, and it's pretty darn good epoxy. In my mind, it's the best. So we're going to go ahead and set this off to the side, and we are going to go ahead and apply it right over the top of this cup. I'm using my nitrile glove. These are important. You need to make sure you wear nitrile gloves, not just latex gloves, because you do not want the chemical from this to penetrate, and it will go right through a latex glove. Nitrile gloves are what you want to do. Sometimes they're black, sometimes they're purple or blue, but the word nitrile is what you're looking for when you're purchasing the gloves. Again, we have these in our Amazon shop, so it's easy to find if you guys don't know where to find these. But generally, hardware stores, any medical supply store, I've even seen them in the rows of the dollar store and in the cleaning department. So they're kind of everywhere, but we make it accessible for you guys through the Amazon link if you need it. But you can see I'm just going straight over this with the epoxy. It did not need to have any kind of sealant put over the top. One less thing to worry about. We're just going straight into it with epoxy. Making sure we go all the way through the top and bottom. What's important to note when you're using our epoxy is that you don't want to use too much heat. In some of my other tutorials, you've seen me use other brands of epoxy, and I use a lot of torching to remove the bubbles. As you can see with ours, there really are no bubbles. And the torch actually will create fisheyes if you use too much heat on this product. That is the one thing you got to be careful of. But what is really nice is you don't actually need to torch that much, because it is, like you see, a glassy finish with no bubbles in it. So you don't need to torch to remove the bubbles. Now, that went on so smooth and easy. I have extra epoxy, so I'm going to go ahead and save this for another project I'm working on and get moving on. This is so easy. You guys can see it just went on smooth as glass. One layer, and this cup is really just finished. All we would then have to worry about doing for this cup is adding someone's name or the phrase that they want put on there, and it would be done. So lickety split, easy peasy. All right, guys, we'll see you soon.